I want to talk about receivers today. In particular, three receivers one from Denon, one from Yamaha, and one from Pioneer. What I want to talk about is the top of the line receivers in their lineup. The Yamaha rx-a3010, the receiver sc-57 from Pioneer, and Denon avr-4311, which is currently the second highest available from Denon. I have experience with all three of them, bought all three of them. I had them hooked up, and I know how they operate, and I can actually say something about it. I'm not going to just make stuff up. Okay, I was always a fan of Denon equipment, and I thought about, when buying a receiver, I always thought about Denon quality, and always liked the fact that the higher end models were made in Japan. So let's talk about avr-4311. I have some list of things here printed from their website. Okay, it's an 11-channel receiver, which means you can run 11 channels, providing you have external amplifier. Here's the thing. Let me just summarize, basically kind of tell you what I like about all three of them, what I don't like. As far as the remote control, I believe that Denon has the best remote control out of all three of them. If that's important to you, the buttons are a lot bigger. The remote is backlit. All these three receivers have backlit remote control. The Yamaha has a remote control that's backlit by LED, so the light is a little brighter and crisper, turns on quicker. But the Denon, I believe, has the best remote because the buttons are a lot larger. It has a little LCD screen on top, which tells you which mode it's in currently. And I just feels better in the hand. Pioneer's remote completely sucks. It's also backlit, but the buttons are so small. Form factor is nice because it's slim, fits nice in your hand, but it's so hard to hit those buttons. So I would give the remote control to Denon, second Yamaha, and Pioneer in third place. As far as on-screen display, I would give Denon first place, Yamaha, and then Pioneer. Because Pioneer just basically sucks. It basically does not have it does have on-screen display as far as like menus and if you want to change settings and stuff like that, but let's say you want to use a receiver and you want to change the sound field or adjust the volume, it just completely sucks. Like in my case, for example, because my equipment is behind me and I find myself constantly looking back to see what sound field I'm in or what's the volume set at. I think that's the biggest mistake that Pioneer made on that part. Why not incorporate all this information into on-screen display like Yamaha and Denon does? So I would say Denon first place, and the reason being is because it seems like the menu is crisper and like sharper than the Yamaha. Yamaha for some reason seems to be out of focus or like not high definition. As far as sound, I gotta say I like the Pioneer sound, slightly better. I don't know what it was about it, but it seemed a little better than Denon. Then I would say Denon number 2 and Yamaha number 3. Speaking of sound, let's talk about calibration. All three of these receivers use different type of calibration. Yamaha uses their own, Pioneer uses their own, Denon uses Odyssey, which is basically like outsourcing their sound calibration. It's done by somebody else. It seems to me that definitely Yamaha's calibration is a lot quicker. It just goes through it real quick, so you're going to be up and ready pretty quick. Pioneer seems to be a lot more involved. a lot more different kind of sounds, and it seems to take a little bit longer, but it makes you feel like, you know, this may really work because it's doing a lot, and uh, it's really like involved. Denon uses the new XT32 from Odyssey, and it will let you calibrate your subwoofers, two subwoofers. So there's nothing really fancy about it. It's just the usual typical sounds. Pioneer has all different kind of sounds and tones, but Denon has just like simple sounds that you're used to hearing. It does calibrate the subwoofers, and there's a nice feature. It's telling you that your subwoofers are a little too high if you have them set too high, and then on-screen display comes up, and you can actually have the subwoofers running and calibrate them so they don't sound higher than 75 decibels. And once that's completed, once it's under 75, then it's going to let you continue on with the setup of subwoofers. So as far as calibration, I don't know. I think it's a draw here because, you know, like I said, Yamaha does a lot quicker, so that's a plus. Pioneer, it seems to be a lot more in depth and involved. And of course, Denon, Odyssey is well known for their sound calibration. So I would say probably Denon first, Pioneer second, Yamaha third. Okay, as far as video, it seemed to me that I like the video coming from Denon better with processing. Then I would say Pioneer, and then Yamaha. Upscale of video. There I saw, it seemed to me that Pioneer was a little bit better in upscaling. Like for example, I had my iPod hooked up to it and just played simple, you know, simple movies from iPod which are not in high definition. And it seemed that to me that Pioneer did a better job than Denon and Yamaha. So I would say Pioneer, Denon, and Yamaha as far as upscale. As far as features, Denon wins hands down, no doubt. It's got AirPlay, it's got remote app for your Android or iPhone. It has satellite radio connectivity. It even lets you connect to Flickr to look at your photos. So I believe as far as features, you know, even though Denon is almost 2 years old here, they packed it with a lot of features. So I would say Denon, then I would say Yamaha, and then Pioneer. Pioneer had completely eliminated Super VHS. Not that anybody needs it, but you know they're stripping everything down basically, which is cool. You know, there's no need for that. Let me tell you about like overall appearance. They all seem to be pretty well built. Yeah, Denon is the only one that's still made in Japan. I think once that unit is, it's already been discontinued, but once it's gone and it's replaced by 4520, I believe that's probably the last one that's made in Japan. But overall quality, it seemed to me that Denon has better quality. Like for example, the casing, the case around the receiver. It seems that steel box seems to be made from thicker, higher grade steel. And the reason I say that is because, just to give you an example, I put my Denon Blu-ray player, the 4010, on top of whichever receiver I had. I put it on top of the receiver. And I noticed, for example, with Pioneer, that the top portion was sagging a little bit. I know it's a heavy player, it weighs about maybe 17, 18 pounds, but for example, I put it on Denon and it seemed that there was no give at all. So I believe as far as quality, craftsmanship, I would say denon here wins. Also, when you look at inside of those receivers, for example, Yamaha and Pioneer, you know, they made that box so high, so tall, but there's really no need. I mean, there's nothing in there. If you look inside that receiver, Pioneer, for example, you could probably make that receiver half of the height that it is with all the stuff that's inside. Denon seems to be a lot more packed. There's, you know, obviously it's smaller, but if you look inside, it's got more stuff in it. It seems like it's more substantial. So that's as far as the quality. Both of them have aluminum front panels. I think I'm not sure about Yamaha, but I believe Pioneer is the only one that has gold-plated inputs and outputs. Both of these, all three receivers have 7.1 channel input analog, and both of them have 11.2 channel outputs. So, however, you can only run 11 speakers at the same time, providing you have external amplifier on both of the receivers, not Pioneer, but you can do it on Denon and Yamaha. Yamaha has it set up differently. They have a front presence and rear presence speakers. For example, Denon does it with Odyssey DSX, which if you have an external amplifier, it will let you connect front wide and front height speakers. Out of these three receivers, Pioneer is the only one that's CHX Ultra 2 Plus certified. What that means is basically it's supposed to be powerful enough to provide enough juice to run a room of up to 3,000 square foot. So, and you know what? It did run pretty well. It seemed that there was a lot of juice in that unit. So, for what it's worth, when they're saying they're HD3, they call them Class D3. I'm sorry, Class D3 amplifiers. They seem to be pretty good. I have to say, as far as amplification, I also look at the receivers. How much wattage they use and they take. I believe that, you know, once if the receiver takes in 500 watts, it seems to me that it's impossible that the receiver will produce, you know, 140 watts times 9, because it's just impossible. So I look at the amount of watts that the receiver actually takes in, how many watts it actually uses. And both of the receivers, Yamaha and Pioneer, use about 370 to 390 watts. Denon, however, it says it uses 690, so almost 700 watts. So I believe that out of all three receivers, Denon would probably be more powerful out of all three of them. I have to also say that for example, I had the Yamaha running only my front 5 speakers. The 6 in the back were ran by external amplifiers. So Yamaha only had to work on 5. When I cranked up the volume to 0, they call it reference level, you could probably go to -15. I'm sorry, +15. But when I just did it to 0, and the receiver turned itself off within maybe a minute. Okay, and I thought at first there was something wrong with it, but then I did it again and it did the same thing. So that tells me, with only 5 channels driven full blast, not even full blast because that was at 0, it cannot deliver all that juice. It's just, there isn't enough, the power supply isn't big enough. I did that with Pioneer. Pioneer did well, did not turn off, and also did that with Denon, and Denon provided enough juice. So all the receivers were set up in the same way. So that's kind of what I didn't like about the Yamaha. It didn't seem to me that the amplifier section inside that unit is powerful enough for my liking. And I can't even imagine doing 9 channels at the same time. That thing probably wouldn't even go down to probably maybe negative 10 maybe, and then it would probably turn off. So if I believe if you wanted to run your system just with the receivers without any external amplifiers, you can go either with Pioneer, it's a safe bet, or the Denon. It will provide enough juice for you. As far as the, for example, okay, there is also, each of those 3 receivers have applications from, for you to use on Android devices or Apple devices. Hands down, here Pioneer wins. It's got such a great app. It's just amazing. It makes you want to just toss that remote control in the toilet. For example, there's one kind of cool thing that I like. I like bass, and there's a button you can push, and you can adjust the bass level simply by tilting either your iPhone or your Android phone up or down. And the bass speaker, there's a speaker, and it just gets bigger, and the bass you feel a lot deeper. And it's kind of cool because you don't have to mess with the settings. You just go into the app. Oh, okay, I feel like more bass today, or oh, I like this movie. This movie's got a great bass in it. You just turn the app on and crank this baby up, and it's great. And then if you just want to reset, go back to the original level like it was set up with the automatic calibration, you just hit the reset button and it goes back to where it was. So hands down, Pioneer wins this. First place, Yamaha second place. Also a nice app for that. Denon sucks as far as that. They have to improve on that. It sucks. AirPlay, obviously Yamaha does not have that. The newer receiver, the 3020, has it. But out of those 3, sc-57 and Denon has AirPlay feature. And it works well. With the Denon 4311, if you buy it now, you might have to upgrade for it to be AirPlay compatible, but that's a free upgrade, no problem. Okay, sound fields. I think Yamaha had the most sound fields here, so I would place Yamaha number 1, and Denon and Pioneer kind of in the same league, with the exception of extra sound fields for THX post-processing, which Pioneer has. The nice thing about the Yamaha, I have to give Yamaha here a plus, is that each particular sound field can be adjusted on the fly. So if let's say you change it to cinema or to movie, and you press the arrow up button on the remote control, it gives you a whole set of settings you can change, like delay times. You can change the size of the room, size of surround. It just gives you a lot more options. Almost like too much. It's like you don't want to really deal with it, but it's it's nice to have if you really want to tweak your system and tweak each sound field to your liking. Yamaha is it. As far as channels, I talked about this. Just want to mention that the Pioneer Elite sc-57 is the only one that has the new DTS NEO-X. However, it seems to me, I talked to a guy from Pioneer, and he also concurred that it runs NEO-X, however, up to only 9 channels. Okay, so like newer receiver, like for example the 5010 from Onkyo, which I wouldn't buy Onkyo anyway. But if you were to choose, obviously it's your choice. That is the first receiver from Onkyo that will do DTS NEO X in 11 channel 4. As far as connectivity, both of these receivers you can connect up to 11 speakers to them. You see here. So you can collect. I'm sorry, I'll take that back. You can connect more. For example, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have, yeah, 11 speakers. Pioneer will let you do front wide or front height, but not at the same time. You have to make that selection. So that's about it as far as the features. I picked denon. It took me a while. Like I said, make a long story short, 5308 from denon broke down. Got some money from Best Buy because they couldn't fix it, and they didn't have anything at that point available from that particular store because I was actually forced to buy it from that store. So I went with Yamaha. I liked it for a while, but then it was just missing something, and it wasn't. The sound was nice and great and crisp, but it just seemed like there isn't enough juice in there. There isn't enough power. So then I gave a Pioneer 57 a try, and I liked it. Especially the application, if they really worked on an on-screen display, because that's a turnoff for a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of people would buy this unit if it had on-screen display the way it's supposed to be done. I mean, this is ridiculous. If you want to check the volume, or got to turn back around, a lot of people have their equipment in cabinets and shelves, and it's not really visible unless you have the receiver actually in front of you, and then you probably need glasses too to see. You can't see the volume, you can't see what sound field you're in. It's just that's a really downside to it. Other than that, the SC-57 is a great receiver. I would still. I went with Denon, and simply because I already have a Denon 4010 Blu-ray player, which is when it first came out, it was a $2,000 Blu-ray player, and it features the Denon Link 4th, which now has been updated to Denon Link HD. And Denon 4311 is the last receiver that currently offers that particular Denon Link 4, which my Blu-ray player has. So I'm able to actually connect those two units together, and it just makes a nice connection, and it's supposed to be jitter free, and the receiver actually controls the clock inside the player, so the sound and video is in sync. I kind of like that feature. So just because of that, I gotta say even though that on-screen display, it's a close call between the Elite 57, the SC-57, and the Denon 4311. However, if I was just to give you advice, hey, I want to buy a receiver, this is what I have in mind, I would pick the Denon. Even though it's 2 years old, I would pick the Denon. And I would say, for example, the new sc-58 from Pioneer that came out, I don't think it's worth the money. You can pick up SC-57 now for around $1,200. And there isn't really that much of a difference between, except for 4K and There's a couple of other features. There isn't really that much difference between the sc-57 and sc-68, and it's not worth paying double for it because the new sc-68 is $2,500 right now. Remember, when you buy a Denon, and especially Pioneer Elite product, you cannot buy it online and expect to have a warranty just in case it breaks down. Pioneer Elite products are only sold from the store. Come with 2-year warranty, and I believe if you spend, you know, $12, $15, even $2,000 on a unit, it's kind of important to feel safe because, you know, you spend $2,000, you get it home, and it breaks down 2 months later, and you know what? Those things cost a lot of money to get fixed, and it's a good thing to have a warranty. So that's it. I hope I didn't bore you. I hope I made these receivers easier to pick. And remember, these are receivers, you know, the older receivers. They're, you know, 2011, 2012 models. There's new ones out there. SC-68, the 3020 from Yamaha, and then it was coming out with avr-4311 in October. And that's why right now is a good time to buy these last year's model, this year's models, because they're going to cost about half of what they used to cost. And there isn't really that much out there that would make you or anybody else pay double the price. 4K is not even around the corner yet, and by the time the 4K is going to be available, your receiver is going to break down or you're going to buy a new one. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry if I bored you. I know I'm not good at it, but I hope I made a decision for you a little easier.